Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from yourblackworld.com, and I saw this interesting article that came up on one of our partner blogs that someone else has that they call All Christian News, and they were speaking about the gospel group Mary Mary, and there's this really interesting story about how one of the members of Mary Mary, Tina Campbell, was married to Teddy Campbell, and she admitted in a recent interview with Ebony.com that she tried to stab her husband several times when she found out he was having an affair. And, that really made me think, and I was talking to Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses from HealthyBlackWoman.com, and, I said, do people think that violence is more acceptable in relationships when somebody has had an affair? So to kind of dig into this a little further, I wanted to bring Nomalanga on. I've got her on the line. How you doing today, Noma?
I'm doing great, boys. How are you?
Doing very well. Now, I want to ask you, okay, so let's lay out the framework here. It's funny, Mary Mary. I thought that when that with their names being Mary Mary, that they were both named Mary or something, and maybe they were friends with the same name. That's how little I knew about this group. I mean, and I do know that they're really talented. I know that lots of people love their music. I also know that the song that I heard was really good. Like, they seem to have this, really great way of merging pop culture with gospel. And that, to me, fits kind of what sort of, happens with the prototypical African-American woman, where, where the church is just, such a part of their lives. And at the same time, they're, many of them are of the world, some more than others, right? But
right.
Even the most secular black woman that you meet, might still, have her Bible nearby, or will still repeat Bible verses. And in fact, it makes you think about this. This is not a sidetrack, but I saw an episode of the Cleveland Show the other day, and it was about religion. And I think the one of the kids asked the mother, like, well, why do you believe in Christianity? She said, because I'm a black woman from the South. And then she goes, that's it. That's all. Like, there was no other explanation. It's like, because I'm a black woman from the South, I am a Christian. That's just the way it is. So anyway, Mary Mary seems to be a personification of that. And, I was really stunned to hear, that she had thought about stabbing her husband. I mean, how did you feel when you read this? Like, what was through your head?
I honestly was actually shocked. First, that she did that, and then secondly, that she admitted it on a national platform that she did that. But as I thought about it some more, it's actually, not necessarily a bad thing. The good news is that she didn't stab him, and when she elaborated a little bit on the piece that I read was she never physically approached him and tried to stab him. And if I'm reading the quote, it says, I never got to the point of physical harm, not really, but my words, she says, my words hurt. So she meant that, her weapon of choice was words.
So, see, but here's the thing, here's what I don't get. I mean, she didn't say, I wanted to stab him. She said, I tried to stab him several times. And also, she says, she says, yeah, my word stabbed him, and I didn't actually do it. But it's not. I mean, I'm getting the impression that she did actually, go after him with a knife and try to stab him. I mean, am I misinterpreting this?
Because we still have to see the whole thing when it comes out. When the issue of, I believe it was Ebony magazine, when it comes out, we can read the whole thing. We're getting excerpts of it right now. It's not really that clear. One, on the quote, it says, I did physically try to stab him. Then the next sentence says, I never got to the point of physical harm. Not really. So maybe she means that she never made contact with the knife in his body, but she made an attempt to.
That's what I'm getting to.
Right. Which, good for him and good for her that she didn't, but it is shocking, like I said, first of all, that she got to that point. But in her defense, I will say this. I think that a lot of us can talk a lot about what we would do in certain situations, But when the situation actually happens and our emotions are escalated, we're experiencing shock, betrayal, and what have you, and this is a very extreme, I imagine, for her. Sometimes I think that people don't know what's in them until it comes out.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask you this. There's so many questions I'd love to ask on this, and you hit on these issues so well on the healthy black woman, which I think is why so many black women love what you do on that site. What if it were, what if you just shifted the gender and she were a male gospel singer, maybe a male pastor, and the pastor said, I found out my wife was having an affair. I tried to stab her several times. I didn't stab her, but I did, my words really hurt. Do you think that people would see that differently? I mean, do you think that people sort of feel that if you're a woman scorned, that, that you really can't harm a big, strong man, that if you hit him or you stab him or you throw hot grits on him, that, he should have known better than to cheat on you, number one. And number two, it's not as if you can really hurt him, so it's no big deal. I mean, do you think that if she were a man, that people would hear this message differently and see her differently?
I think that myself included, I would view the whole situation differently. We have to take into consideration, first of all, that a man's physical strength and a woman's physical strength, and I'm talking about the average woman and the average man, a man typically will win out. We have to take that into consideration. So a man is always more of a threat to a woman than a woman is to a man. That being said, like you said, a healthy black woman, one of the things that we share a lot is tips for healthy relationships. Obviously, launching a physical attack on somebody is not a healthy approach to anything. But I certainly do think there's a double standard, and I can only say that I believe it exists because women obviously are, in terms of physical strength, are at a disadvantage than men. So people will readily accept that a woman could, attack a man physically, but will not accept that a man can physically attack a woman. And then another thing is when a woman physically attacks a man, he's likely to have the ability to fend her off. And when the situation is reversed, a man is more likely to overpower the woman. But I do want to stand firm in saying that neither of those scenarios are acceptable. They're not a healthy way of functioning in a relationship.
Okay. Well, I think we can accept that. I will say that although, double standards, I think, are acceptable to a point in the sense that we don't live in a world where men and women are the same. We know that. You and I think, agree on that.
Right.
My daughter went to Columbia University, and they really taught them a very strong feminist doctrine, and sometimes it seems that feminism goes further than most of us in the black community want to go. It's sort of like, well, if a man can do it, then a woman can do it, everything
Right.
that men are, women should and can be the same thing if they want to be. And honestly, I think the differences that we have as men and women are, to be celebrated in many cases. And I think that one of those differences is, I agree with you, there is a difference between a woman attacking a man and a man attacking a woman. At the same time, though, when you talk about stabbing somebody, like let's say she tried to stab him while he was asleep or while he wasn't looking. I mean, that sort of thinking. Number one, you'd never see me wanting to ever be around a woman who might stab me, no matter what I did. Because I can't even imagine anything that a woman has ever done to me that would make me want to do something like pull out, to even go near a knife. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you want to throw something, or you might, do something horrible, in some other area. I don't know, like you talked about changing his will and all that stuff. Okay, but, to go grab a knife and want to stab somebody, that's not cool. That borders on mental illness. I mean, technically, male or female, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you were successful or not. The fact that you said, I'm so mad, I'm going to grab a knife and go try to stab this person, I think that can't be overlooked. And, the other thing I want to, this is where I'm getting to my question that I want to ask you as well, and you can feel free to comment on that part too.
Sure.
it's funny because, the other member of Mary married Tina, I think. Well, wait, there's Tina and then there's Erica. Tina's the one we were talking about, so Erica's the other one, right?
Right.
Okay. Erica married a guy who was an executive at Death Row Records, of all places. Now, it's funny. He goes from Death Row Records, which was notorious for being the most gangster-filled, violent, illegal operation in the entire music industry, to becoming a pastor. And I guess it's funny how in the black community, no matter how ratchet somebody's life is, they still feel that it's okay to go and be called to preach, which I'm not going to judge that. It is what it is. But, do you think that there's something there where you have a lot of, Christian women that maybe, I don't know if it's due to some degree of repression, maybe repressed sexuality, whatever the case may be, sort of end up being attracted to bad boys or bad situations, or just kind of a different life that contrasts heavily to the image of the so-called good Christian woman. I mean, do you think there's something there, or am I just making this all up?
Well, I certainly don't think that you're making it up. I will say one thing that I do know, and it's not just Christian women, it's not just black women, but women in general. Sometimes, women have issues that they deal with, self-esteem, confidence, and so forth, and it manifests in their behavior. And obviously, if you're going to be with a man who's talking death and violence and he's a thug or whatever name people use to describe somebody who obviously no parent wants their daughter to bring home and say, this is my boyfriend and I'm going to marry him and so forth. Women do bring those kinds of men home, and they are attracted to those kinds of men. And it is in a direct opposite of what they say they want or who they say they are. That does happen. But at the same time, one of the things that I gleaned from what I read about that was when Erica was talking about her husband and that he had been working at Death Row Records and was now becoming a pastor, it seems that he came from the environment where he was raised in a Christian home and was a Christian. And she didn't say this, but he may have strayed off path and went to Death Row and is just coming back to who he was originally. So, yeah. And maybe he had that separation of this is my job and this is my life, which I've seen other people do. And I'm not saying it's okay or that it's not okay, but I do see some people who separate what they do from, who they believe they are. I saw it done very in a dramatic way by Beyonce, the pop singer Beyonce. You'll see her as a person, and she's very shy and very meek, and then you see her on a stage, and it's like a different person, and she distinguishes.
Yeah, Janet Jackson has that too.
Right. It's like it's two different things. Like, that's my job, that's what I do there, and this is who I am as a person. So that's how I kind of make sense of it in my mind. Like, how can she be a Christian singer, and she comes from a good Christian home, at least that's what she says, and that's what they've publicized about themselves, and then be with a guy from Death Row Records, but it seems that was his job, but she says she married a wholesome Christian guy, and he happened to work at Death Row Records, and it doesn't surprise her that now he's going to go and be a pastor.
Interesting. Well, I don't know if people know this. I guess hardcore fans probably know, but both of their husbands have the last name Campbell.
Right.
Isn't that strange? And they're not related.
Right. So they still end up having the same last name.
Wow. So they're not. They may not. Maybe or maybe not. Maybe they're not chasing after bad boys, but maybe they're chasing after men with the same last names. Who knows? But
right.
Well, one thing I do know is that this group is extraordinary. I mean, these women seem to have won all kinds of awards and sold millions of albums, and I know that people love their music for good reason. I mean, they're very talented, and I think with this whole stabbing thing, as you mentioned. Things happen in relationships, things happen in marriages. I would argue that violence has no place in a relationship. If your mate is violent towards you, I think you nip that in the bud, especially for men that might be listening. I tell all black men I know, look, if they come to the house and they have to arrest somebody, they're going to arrest you because they love to arrest black men. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, even if she's crazy and she attacked you, they're still going to find a way to arrest you. So you need to just get out of the situation any way you can. So So those are my thoughts on it. You know, I hope that their marriage is better now than it was. And I want to say thank you, Noma, for giving me your time. I really appreciate it.
Right. And I just wanted to add, Boyce, that the one thing that they were focusing on about the story was it was about how she forgave her husband. And I think part of the story was, okay, I've forgiven him, I forgave him, but don't think it was easy. I did go crazy at one point, and I, attacked him with a knife or whatever, but we've moved on from that. We've repaired the marriage, and it's back on solid ground. I think that was the,
I think that's a good thing, but here's the thing. He should be forgiving her for trying to stab him. I'm sorry. I don't, I'm sorry, but you can't, when I look at it from my perspective, again, I'm a man, I'm not a woman, but if I tried, if I'm in a relationship and I try to stab that woman, there is nothing she could have done short of giving me AIDS or something that would make me think that I could do something like that and be justified. Even something like that. You can't go and pick up a knife and stab somebody or throw hot grits on them while they're sleeping. Yeah, you can't. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, I think people have to get past this idea that violence is ever okay because somebody hurt you emotionally. Guess what? People get cheated on. Guess what? The person that you love, chances are they see other people. They're tempted by other people every day. Nobody owns another human being. So I'm not saying that adultery is okay. I'm not saying infidelity is okay. It's not. But stabbing people is not okay either. And stabbing is far worse than adultery. So if you ever hear about Boyce Watkins getting cheated on, you're going to hear that he got a divorce, maybe that he took all the money, or that he, that he said horrible things about the woman, but you will never hear the words, Dr. Boyce Watkins stabs his wife because she cheated on him. That's just not going to happen because it's just not acceptable. So that's just my 2 cents. And then the question I asked you about, being attracted to the dangerous guys, I was just curious about that because I'm fascinated by female psychology because I have my daughters and I'm always trying to understand them. And as I've taken the highest level mathematics classes that a person can take, but one of the things I will never solve is the equation that it consumes the female mind. Like, I will never understand how women think, and so the whole bad boy thing is really intriguing to me because who knows? I think I missed out on a lot of dates because I wasn't the bad boy. I was the good guy. I actually tried to be honest and do what I was supposed to do. So maybe I should have been a little bit more of a bad boy, and I would have had more girlfriends in high school. Who knows? So
I just want to say I wholeheartedly agree with you. That violence is never okay. It's just not okay, and there's no more to it than that. It's not okay. And I do think, though, it was courageous of her to admit it. Because she could have hidden it and just pointed the finger at him and look what he did and look at me, I'm a saint, I forgave him. But she also put out her dirty laundry for us to see, as well as his, mind you. But the truth is, that's actually something, when I was a college instructor, a lot of my time was taken up by counseling students. And what I remember about that was I always said about violence that it doesn't matter what the other person did. Once you take it to the violence, nobody's going to care what they did. They're just going to focus on the violent act. And if they stepped on your toe by mistake and then you stab them, nobody cares that anybody stepped on anybody's toe. They're just going to focus on the stabbing.
That's right.
No matter, So the violence obviously is the thing that will destroy your life if you decide to engage in it, and it can destroy somebody else's life if, whatever you do to them endangers their life. So I just want to make that clear. I don't think it's okay. But I do commend her for being able to stand up and say, hey, look, he did that, it wasn't okay. I did this, and it wasn't okay. But we were able to move on. And I think I'm a huge advocate of marriage. I would hope that they didn't just say, oh, sorry, and carry on. I would hope that they got some resources to help them deal with whatever he was dealing with that caused him to stray and whatever she was dealing with that caused her to turn into somewhat of a cycle for those few seconds, minutes, or whatever it was, and then move on to functioning in a more healthy way, in a more functional way in their marriage.
Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you. I think that, yes, I think people have to understand that when you commit violence, that people are going to pay attention to what you did and not what the other person did to make you commit violence, unless they were violent toward you, right? And I think that's important to understand, because I remember talking to a young lady that I mentor who got into a fight right in front of me with another girl her age, and it kind of became this, it kind of deteriorated into this very ratchet kind of fight, like, B, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to F you up, and it was like out of control, and so I'm trying to grab her, and tell her, like, look, you're over 18, you can't go punch a girl in the face and think that everything's going to be okay. And she's like, no, but she disrespected me, and the rules of the street say that if you get disrespected, you knock her teeth out. And I'm like, you don't understand. The police are going to arrest you if you do this. And it was interesting because, when I saw this fight, it reminded me of what I see on TV with basketball wives, women jumping across the table trying to beat each other down, or these videos that go viral where a bunch of women on a bus. It's always women. It's so interesting. Women on a bus will just start fighting. And one of them actually involved a pregnant woman who was fighting like she was a member of the WWE wrestling team or something. And it bothers me because it's like, I'm sitting there thinking, how can I explain to this young person that the courts aren't going to care if she disrespected you? Why would you go to jail because somebody disrespected you? And I think that, that kind of ties back to this issue that some people may, I think that it's very important. First of all, I will say, I think it's so courageous that she admitted that she tried to do this. I mean, she didn't have to do it. There's going to be repercussions, but I give her credit for that honesty. Like their book was called Transparency, so I respect that. But at the same time, when you lay that out there, you need to lay it out in the right context. Don't lay it out as, oh, I tried to stab him, ha ha ha. And we all understand he deserved to get stabbed because he's a cheater. Oh, but then I forgave him for cheating. No, he needs to forgive you for trying to stab him too. And you need to also accept the fact that you were wrong for retaliating in that way. If he cheats on you, divorce him, yell at him, fight with him, argue, whatever it is, just talk bad about him, whatever it is you want to do to retaliate. But you don't pick up that knife and stab him, or at the very least you don't sort of present this to the public as if he deserved to be stabbed because he cheated. Right. No, nobody deserves to be stabbed. I'm sorry.
No, I completely agree with you. Nobody deserves to be stabbed. Or anything. I mean, I'm of the opinion that if you're so offended, so betrayed, and all these other things, the best thing that you could do is just walk away. Just walk away. Just in the same way, if a woman physically assaults a man, the best thing that he can do is walk away. If the situation has escalated to the point that you cannot believe that you're in the middle of it, walk away from it. It applies both ways. Just walk away from it. And when you walk away, you have a choice to think, regroup, whatever, and decide, do you want to go back and try to resolve it, or do you continue walking,
I love it. And I think you're right. That's what I say to people. Anybody who doesn't want to participate in, in that kind of, behavior, if you see the situation dissolve itself to a level that, that you feel is beneath you, I agree. Just detach. There are plenty of other situations you can be a part of that are not going to be as silly and trifling. And also, I think in terms of who we decide to spend our lives with, if you're dealing with a person who you think has the ability to take it there, maybe you should reconsider. One thing as I got older and I got to understand women better, I began to know how to identify the kinds of women I would want to be around. I never got married, but when I did almost get married, I respected this woman because no matter how much we disagreed, there was never a time where it would ever have to escalate to violence, no matter what. Right. So I just think that that's something to keep in mind. So anyway, we've talked this into the ground. I hope that this isn't taken as being disrespectful toward Mary. We think they are extraordinary. And once again, I applaud Miss Tina for being so honest about her background. So, and I also applaud Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses because you are an awesome public figure yourself. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Okay, and thank you all to...
Always a pleasure.
Or absolutely. And to everybody listening, I want to say thank you for checking us out. This was Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses from healthyblackwoman.com. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from yourblackworld.com. And until we meet again, stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.